must have it.
Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Dennis Adigunloye. The 2023 general elections are just about a year away, and mindful of this and in an effort to bring into being an electoral act that will properly guide the forthcoming elections, the National Assembly has rescinded its decision on Clause 84 of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2010 and passed a harmonized version of both chambers, which now provides for direct, indirect and consensus modes of party primaries.
On the 19th of January 2022, both chambers of the National Assembly addressed the concerns raised by President Muhammadu Buhari on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2010, reconsidered and passed it. The Senate had adopted direct, indirect and consensus as mode of party primaries, but the House of Representatives rejected consensus. 6 days after, both chambers have addressed the variation and adopted a harmonized version which provides that a consensus candidate can only emerge through a written consent of all cleared aspirants that they have withdrawn from contesting the said position.
Where a political party is unable to secure the written consent of all aspirants for the purpose of a consensus candidate, it shall revert to the choice of direct or indirect primaries.
We are very glad that we have been able to achieve this consensus between the two chambers to arrive at this harmonized version. And we are also very optimistic that Mr. President will sign the bill. Our desire is to ensure that we reform the electoral processes in Nigeria.
Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, it was what I had wished. Contributing on the floor in the Hollow Chamber of the Senate, I have been very clear, as some other members of other Senate colleagues of mine, very clear that you cannot make a law for a particular moment. A law is supposed to be an ongoing, control mechanism. Okay, and so if people make laws just because they want to protect themselves from the problem of what senators or House of Rep elected members suffer, during elections, it will not be good law. And those who read jurisprudence know that when you make that kind of law, it's called a bad law. So some of us, we were of the opinion that yes, we are human, and we are bound to express certain interests that may be personal. But when the law is made, you must desist from the temptation to make the law serve your own purpose. In fact, doing so is contrary to the oath of office that we take as legislators. So we've been very clear. It didn't make any sense that you talk about, oh yes, we must do open ballot, and people interpret it in house as a Katu buying Katu. And it didn't make much sense to me. Like it's pointed out, the small parties cannot afford that. They can't afford the expenditure that goes with it. So the money bags, having cornered what they call a constituency, you want to ensure that that is what happens and they can buy up. But even at that one, I have seen states I've witnessed it. I've been involved with court cases where people gave their money to people to elect them, and when they fall into queues, Kato, buy and Kato, they didn't see them in the queue, in their own queue, for which they thought they had paid for. And some of them had guts, in spite of the corruption involved. They had guts to face those who took their money and would not vote for them. They are not in their queue. And, fights ensued. Some of the matters went to court. And some people were beaten, thoroughly beaten, for taking money and not, doing the bidding of the person from whom they got their money. So, I think this last position, the compromise that was entered, was good. It showed maturity, and it did away with partisanship in our effort to make laws for this country, laws for the good governance of this country. So, to take all the three factors, if you want to go consensus, if you want to go direct, if you want to go indirect, you have those options. The law has given the latitude for any of the three. All right, so I think it was good, and both national chambers of National Assembly, came together on that, and it's been passed, and I'm very happy about that. We stood for that in the beginning, and we're happy that those who stood for this in the beginning have had the day. I'm never ashamed about it, and if you win, you win. You lose, you lose. But at the end of the day, it is not for me. It is for every one of us, and we've done something that is good for all Nigeria. And so we stand as a chamber representing all Nigerians, and that I hope that will be the spirit.
It was passed, and there was a difference between the Senate and the House version, because the Senate slotted in the consensus candidature option, which the House did not. But fortunately, there were meetings between the two chambers, and we all agreed that if we can spell out what and when the consensus option will be, resorted to, then it's a good option. And that has happened today as we speak. The Senate came up with the agreement between the two chambers, and we passed it again, meaning that the House too would have passed the same version that we passed today. So there's no longer that discrepancy between the House version and the Senate version. And I think Nigerians will soon have a brand new electoral law to guide the process of the election that we're looking up to 2023. There has been a lot of speculation in the week on the issue of removal of fuel subsidy, and the federal government put these concerns to rest, assuring that there are no plans in the foreseeable future for the removal of fuel subsidy. Added to this was the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, saying the planned removal of fuel subsidy after June this year, as provided in the 2022 budget, is no longer possible. This was while briefing the leadership of the Senate on the circumstances that led to the suspension of the 6-month subsidy removal plan.
We believe that the issue of the removal of subsidy should be handled with the utmost care, that the timing should be such that the impacts and consequences would not add to hardships.
Practically, there is still heightened inflation, and also removal of subsidy will further worsen the situation, thereby imposing more difficulties on the citizens. And Mr. President clearly does not want to do that. In terms of putting in place a number of measures, one of which is the deployment of an alternative to the PMS, which is the CND, and also the rollout of enhanced refining capacity in the country, including the 650,000 barrels per day Dangote refinery, and also the rehabilitation of the 4 national refineries that have a combined nameplate capacity of 450,000 barrels per day.
And I'm taking this opportunity to appeal to TUC and LSE to shelve this plan to go on strike or demonstration is totally unnecessary. There is not going to be removal of subsidy.
Meanwhile, Senate President Ahmed Lawan has urged heads of paramilitary agencies involved in the activities of petroleum products to strengthen their surveillance against smuggling of the products. At a meeting with the leadership of the Nigerian Customs and Immigration Services, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, and others, Senator Lawan explained that the stoppage of smuggling petroleum products is very critical to reducing the cost of fuel subsidy. He advised them to also engage citizens living in the border communities in the fight against criminals.
I know individually these organizations have been carrying out their responsibilities on this, but I think we are coming into a special moment. Our situation is such that we cannot afford anymore to allow this smuggling business to continue, because the cost is very huge.
We have been doing a lot. Let me say here that in general terms, we have a porous border, which, Mr. President, you know. We also do not have all those equipments you have made mention of in ensuring the surveillance of our borders. And one most critical thing is that within our border communities, there's no presence of governance.
We have been doing our best, and we have actually introduced some new strategies in trying to curtail this smuggling. We have arrested a lot of tankers, and we're also into a joint operation that was introduced by NPC.
The coronavirus pandemic, which has been with us for over 2 years now, has exposed the deficiencies in healthcare systems across the world. And in order to improve healthcare delivery in Nigeria, the Senate has come up with the National Health Emergency Bill. It seeks to repeal the Quarantine Act of 2004 and to reenact the National Health Emergency Bill to provide for timely control of outbreak of infectious diseases.
But I will also advise
11 months after the Senate considered the National Emergency Health Bill for second reading, the proposed law has now been passed. It mainly seeks to put in place an updated and comprehensive framework for the prevention and control of the outbreak of infectious diseases. The bill is sponsored by Senator Chukwuka Otazi.
The passage of this bill will no doubt ensure timely response to the treatment and prevention of the spread of infectious diseases during the periods of public health emergencies.
Infectious diseases, it is important for us to have a proper prevention mechanism.
to make provisions for the regulating and preventing the introduction into and spread in Nigeria of dangerous infectious diseases and for other related matters. 2022, third reading taken, and the bill is passed.
And the Senate is considering the bill that seeks to repeal the Public Complaints Commission Act and to reenact the Public Interest Disclosure and Complaints Commission. The bill, which has passed second reading and sponsored by Senator Suleiman Abdukwari, is primarily to expand the scope of the Public Complaints Commission to accommodate the various anti-corruption policies and measures of government to strengthen anti-corruption agencies and to protect citizens who are willing to provide vital information on corrupt practices.
As lawmakers, we have the prerogative of creating institutions of relevance. This bill, when passed into law, We repeal the Public Complaints Commission Act 1975 and reenact the Public Interest Disclosure and Complaints Commission Act of 2020. This bill has 15 parts covering the legal and institutional framework, management, and protection of disclosures.
So we don't necessarily have to come up with a new commission, but to expand an existing commission and make it more focused in the war against anti-corruption.
Enact the Public Interest Disclosure and Complaints Commission to provide a framework for making disclosure and protection of disclosure and for other related matters. 2022 second reading taken.
Six nominees as National Electoral Commissioners and one resident electoral commissioner for the Independent National Electoral Commission have been screened by the Senate Committee on INEC.
The nominees for National Commissioners are Mohammed Aruna North Central, Mayor Gbamuchembo South South, Okeagu Kenneth Nnamdi South East, Major General Hebia Kali retired North East, Professor Rhoda Gomos South South, Sam Olumeko South West, and Olani Jalaye South West as Resident Electoral Commissioner. The screening of the nominees followed nominations communicated to the Senate by President Muhammadu Buhari. Each of the nominees appeared before the committee and was thoroughly scrutinized.
Depending on what we face, what we have, we provide solutions to them. So we have a mixture of solutions to the issues we face with regard to difficult terrain in Nigeria.
Nigeria has called me and I have obeyed. And I pray that God will help me to do the needful.
Now I'm wondering how Mr. President fished her out from the classrooms in the Niger Delta University in Bayelsa. So these are the kinds of persons we like to see, particularly in this type of national assignment.
Chairman of the committee expressed satisfaction with the quality of the nominees.
That bringing back experienced people, and then they are mixing with experienced ones and those who are coming afresh. That will be a blend for people to learn, and we appreciate the nomination. So I believe President Buhari has an eagle eye to look down and find a qualified person.
The report of the committee will be laid before Senate plenary for further legislative action.
As the 9th National Assembly enters its last full calendar year, what level of progress has been made by the Senate in terms of its legislative agenda? As election season heats up, how will legislators strike a right balance between focusing on the core mandate of lawmaking and preparing for 2023? And what should Nigerians expect regarding the Constitution amendment process?
Well, I think this assembly, first of all, I must establish that this assembly has been known widely to have established a good working relationship, with the executive arm of government. To an extent that some members of the public will label us a rubber stamp assembly. It has its uses, in my opinion. In the last assembly, for instance, in the 8th assembly, when both presiding officers presiding officers of the two chambers had a combative relationship with the executive arm of government, the presidency. This one is different, and in the last assembly, for instance, at the end of it all, I think about 515 bills were passed into law, and less than 100 of them were signed. Now, in this 9th assembly, we've had, it's not huru, that is not everything is going as it should be, but most of the bills that we've passed are signed into law. So I count that as, the dividends of the good working relationship that the leadership of both chambers have established with the executive arm of government. And when things start to go wrong, there are meetings and such things are triced out. The debate as to whether this is a better approach from a legislative arm of government is left for another day. But as far as I can tell now, I mean, certain things are being done. The executive arm of government has no excuse to begin to cite the National Assembly as being a clog in the wheel of whatever plans they have for the nation. We want the dividends of democracy to go out there to the people, and you know, a situation where you see the spokesman of the president begin to say that, oh, we would have done this, would have done that, but it's the National Assembly that is blocking us. They don't have any such excuses. So if they have any explanations to give to the Nigerian people, they should, and leave the National Assembly out of it. This is the political year, so to say. This is the year that a lot of political activities will be going on. And in no fairness to ourselves, as politicians here, it happens everywhere. If you go to America, where we are copying, when it comes to the election season, you find a lot of people going all over their constituency, all over the country, trying to canvass for votes, because we are politicians and you have to convince the people why they should vote you before. So, but the question you ask is how to balance the two. Of course, we have to have the balance so that you don't have at a particular city, for instance, the whole, the whole chamber is not coming up with a quorum to go on with the activity. I don't think we'll get to that stage. I have been around the National Assembly. This is my 14th year. This is my 13th year actually. And I don't think we have had a situation where, because of election, we don't meet the quorum. There are some people that are not going for election. There are some people that are, even though they may be going for election, they'll be waiting for the election proper, not the nomination process, because their nomination is almost guaranteed. And so, because of that, you always find people on the floor that will, ensure that the House, the chambers has the required quorum to go on with the activities of the day. Fortunately, the quorum for sitting is not too high, as set by the Constitution. So, I think we always meet that as a balance. The constitutional amendment is something is very fundamental to the work of the legislature, because that is the law from which all other laws take their legitimacy. Okay, the lawyers will say it's the ground norm of our system of laws. And even though I'm not a member of the constitutional amendment ad hoc committee, I've been following the activity. The work has been done. The public hearing took place in all 6 geopolitical zones of the country, and now the committee is tidying up work, putting crossing the T's and dotting the I's, so that the work, what has been agreed upon, will be brought to the respective chambers for voting of every member of the National Assembly, both Senate and this. So that is when it will be on the floor. For now, the committee that was saddled with the responsibility of doing the work is doing the work. They've been holding meetings. Even today that we speak, one of the meetings is going to be held. So I'm sure very soon it will be brought to the chambers of the Senate and, of course, the House of Representatives for voting.
Well, that concludes Senate 109 for this week. Thanks for watching. I'm Dennis Adigunloye. Bye for now.